Hello people, what is going on? Welcome back to the channel. This is Sorins and today we're gonna review the Object 590. This vehicle can be in the 2024 black market, but no one is gonna be really sure about it. But I don't know what, I'm gonna review this vehicle as it will be and as the vehicle is right now in your garage, because obviously you can see it in the live World of Tanks. So the vehicle, it has an interesting gun. It's a 100mm with 3 shell auto reload with 4.3 second intra clip. That is a big intra clip reload. And considering you load your first shell in 8.3 and 8.6 stock, yeah, I don't really know about what to say about this gun at first sight. But here is an overview of how it looks like in your garage. I mean, it looks like a T-44 by the looks of it on its hull, though it looks as well as a T-54. So let's jump straight ahead to Tomato GG and take a look at its comparison towards the T-54 and the 430, which are two Tech 3 tanks. So guys, before I start this video, obviously I want to tell you that the statistics can be subject to change, and also on top of that, you might not get the vehicle in the game at all. So just take a sip of tea and enjoy the preview, or actually the review of this vehicle. So starting off with the DPM, we can see that the vehicle, even though it has an auto reloader mechanic, obviously it's a reverse auto reloader, which means your first shell, whenever you are dry, is gonna load the quickest, and as we saw from the garage, I think it's 8.6 seconds. But other than that, it's really nice that you have another like 640 alpha damage to your disposal whenever you want, let alone being 8.6 seconds away from the first shot. But other than that, the vehicle seems fairly nice. I mean, the DPM for a medium tank, it's fairly good, 2300 base. I mean, it's nowhere near as the T-54 with the pay-to-win gun, or not even the Object 430, the nerd version of the 430. But other than that, penetration is really nice at 225, which is much better than the stock 201 that you get on the pay-to-win version of the T-54, but it's way less than a tier 8, actually a tier 9 430. And this penetration is roughly what you get on the tier 8, like tier 8 mediums and heavy tanks are all. But on top of that, you have APCRs with really nice shell velocity, but once you load gold, it's only 268, and it really pales in comparison towards the 350, and well, it's pretty much the same as the 270 that you get on the 430. So you don't have access to any of those really nice rounds that you get on the hit round, like for the object, whatever was the name of the reward object, the tier 9 premium. What was it? I cannot really remember, but it was the one that we got from the slot machine. That thing has 300. The whatever has 300. I think the 430 version 2 has 330 hit. So yeah, this vehicle doesn't get the best ammunition, but obviously, if talking about the APCRs, let alone, yeah, this thing have 1480 meter shell velocity, which are lightning fast. You can really snipe if your gun really wants you to snipe. You can do that, because you don't really need to aim your actually you don't need to aim, you don't need to aim your shell that much, which means whenever you are leading your aim towards the target, you pretty much, it's gonna be instantly hitting. Next, obviously, you have 100mm, which is not as good as the 122 that you get on the 430, which means you cannot really overmatch the foreheads of German heavy tanks at tier 8, like all 40mm side armor and engine decks, which is a bit sad, but obviously this vehicle is a medium tank, it shouldn't really fight in close range, and obviously versus heavy tanks front. But this vehicle carries 45 rounds, which should be fine to carry enough AP, a premium AP and standard APCRs, and some HE as well. But considering it's an auto reloader, I mean, because the first shell loads the fastest, I guess you can still switch to an HE, a sneaky HE, just to pick up a kill or something like that. But the potential damage is under 15,000, which is just enough to last you through this map. What else to say about the gun handling? I mean, this is where this tank is not really shining. You have 3 seconds aim time, 0.41 accuracy. I mean, you'll not say that is that bad considering the 430 has 0.40, but whenever you look at the dispersion, you kind of are checking yourself off the mountain, because 0.25, that is ridiculous dispersion. Your reticle is going to be as big as the entire screen, and whenever you turn the turret to readjust, whenever you're cupola sniping, you want to have this number as low as possible. But with 0.23, whenever you move your mouse, even if you're stationary, this thing is gonna bloom. It's gonna bloom twice as much as it does on the T54, on the 430U, for instance. So you kind of need to use vertical stabilizer and probably a rotation mechanism. And on top of that, the firing penalty, it's 4.5. The bloom after fire, it's 4.5, which is insane. But considering you have to wait 4.3 seconds, I guess this balances this thing out. Next, elevation is 23 degrees, which is the best in this comparison, and you have 5 degrees of gun depression, which is gonna be really limiting. But if you love your 430, those two tanks are gonna have pretty much the same playstyle. You can take them on the same spot, and so on and so forth. But I'd actually think the Object 430 has 5 degrees as well, but I might be mistaken, the tier 10 one. Next, in terms of mobility, this is where things are actually looking tiny touch better, because you have 52 km/h, which is tiny touch better than the 430, and the vehicle is just between Object 430 and the T54, stays right in the middle. It has good enough power to ratio and good enough mobility for a medium tank, but obviously the 430 just has so great ground resistance. I even forgot about it. And this tank is turning its tracks pretty much the slowest of all. So yeah, this vehicle is gonna turn more like a heavy in this comparison rather than a medium. But in terms of armor, this is where everyone is thinking like, if the gun is gonna derp around and cannot really penetrate, can you take a shell? I mean, you do have 1800 hit points, which is much better than the T54, and you have part on part with the 430, which 430 it's an assault medium tank, which means you can play with heavies pretty much. But 1900, as you can see, you have 110 on the hull and 200 on the front of the turret. But whenever you look at the model, you can actually, you can actually do some side scraping, I guess. I mean, obviously there's a big weak point over here whenever the turret is meeting the hull. But I mean, look at that, you can just wiggle left, right, and you can just bounce to 25. So yeah, lower tiers are gonna be struggling a bit to penetrate, but I mean, you cannot really side scrape as well, because once people are gonna know how to take this thing out, it's not gonna be really nice. Though the turret seems fairly solid versus 268. It's starting to fall apart because it's 200 flat around this. Whenever it's going towards the edge, it's getting tiny touch better, but versus premium rounds, this thing doesn't seem that best. But considering you have an auto reloader, I guess that's worth the trade. On top of that, you have two cupolas that are fairly visible and fairly easy to hit. Though from the garage, we saw that it's kind of a tiny touch silhouette. It's a tiny tank. I mean, not the tiniest like an ELC, but for a medium, it is fairly small. But it's not as small as the Object 430. We can really see that from the camouflage, because it's only 1% better than the T4, and it's 1% worse than the Object 430, so it's right in the middle. But this vehicle has a fire chance of 15, so it's gonna catch fire more times than the other two vehicles in this comparison, and has 380 meters of view range, which is the same as Object 430. But I think that's enough theory crafting. Let's actually set out the vehicle and see how it will perform. So starting off with the field mods, you are gonna get much better power to weight ratio, which is always fine. You kind of want to put module durability, So in terms you obviously get damage, you're not gonna get a penalty that much. You want to increase your I think you want to decrease your dispersion for the accuracy. Next, you kind of want to get some more concealment at the cost of a reverse speed, because this tank gets 20 km/h reverse, which is fine. Next, what do you want to take? I think you can take survivability if you really want to play close quarters combat, considering the gun is not in its best shape of form. And this one, 2 km/h top speed for 3% view range. I think for some of you that are gonna drop the turbo, I guess it's gonna be a fair trade. But on top of that, if you're trading the 2 km/h for some view range, I guess it's once again a good enough trade. But it is really depending on your playstyle. Now for this, how I will set it up? Well, obviously because it's an auto loader, you cannot really use auto loader and auto reloader, cannot use rammers. I guess you kind of want to go for vents, but at the same time it's not the biggest of difference with vents. And considering this vehicle really needs all its time for the vertical stabilizer, I mean you could go for a rotation mechanism, hardening for city maps, and the third slot can be a turbocharger. Or you can just drop this thing for, actually you can put the turbocharger here. Let's actually do this here, and a turbocharger here, and you get your top speed up to, by the looks of it, is almost 60 km, which is very fast. You can get into position even on medium terrain, which is very nice. On top of that, you also have nearly 2000 hit points, which is fine. And with the vertical stabilizer, considering it's only a normal one, if you put bounty on, I mean the gun handling doesn't look as bad as it used to. And whenever you start to put let's put actually concealment, recon, smooth ride, snapshot, and situation awareness, yeah, the gun actually doesn't start to look that bad. And in terms of the dispersion, obviously the accuracy is gonna be a big factor. But if you're playing mostly of the city maps, I mean you do not really need to worry about it. Whenever you fight in the close range, it is gonna be fairly fine. And if you put the extra ratios on it, you'll never reach 445 with this setup, but obviously you can really adjust for your playstyle. You want a DPM monster, you can put this, and you still want to get up to the highest, like 445 mark. But I don't really think you need optics. This tank is not to spot. This tank is more like probably a support tank. I mean, it's versatile. It doesn't have the most armor, so you can't really play in the front line, though you can really support your team. And just for the science, if you put double rotation mechanism, this thing is gonna go down to 0.15, 0.16, which is I think based as the object 430 get, which is, yeah, pretty much with double setup you get the base numbers for the 430. I mean, this thing is gonna have like really bad gun handling, but I guess it really worth the trade. Now let's take a look at it in the garage and see. Maybe you had some hidden things. I mean, the vehicle is fairly small with 5 degrees on calibration, which means you can, I don't know really what to say about it, but I am actually looking forward to it. It is gonna be something new, something interesting. But is it gonna be overpowered? No, I don't think it's gonna be really overpowered, especially the intra-clip reload. You'll not be able to punish enemies as you do with things like a Skoda T50. And considering about the gun handling, you will not be that effective at long range. So whenever you are fighting close range, you don't really have the armor to hold up, but you are still a good tank to support. I mean, if you are waiting for the full clip, which is gonna take roughly like 40, what is it, 42 seconds to fully reload. I guess, I mean, you don't really need to fully reload. You always want to fire your shells so you're having the best DPM. Whenever you are playing like a Progetto and you are shooting only the last shell, I think your DPM is gonna go under 1000, which is never good. You always want to be dry, yet at the same time, whenever you are dry, people are gonna notice it, and they're gonna know, hey, you have the same DPM as a normal tank, and therefore you don't have any 2 extra shells to defend yourself. So they're gonna make a push on you, but you still obviously have all of those hit points. But once again, the gun depression, yeah, this thing is not gonna be, I mean, it's not gonna be for me right now. I'm just playing a Renegade, and all tanks with 10 degrees on gun depression, and just I love them. But going back to 5, yeah, I cannot really say that I'm gonna be a big fan of it. Though obviously the mobility is fine, what was it? The concealment is fairly fine. I don't know. Let me know what do you think about this, and let's actually take a look at some statistics of how Supertesters are playing with it. Alrighty, so here we are in the garage, and we're gonna take a look at 3 accounts, 3 Supertest account. First guy is gonna have 57% win rate, which he played the object 590 11 times. He won 55% of its games, and he's averaging 1400 damage with 800 assistance, which pretty much this guy had an assistance build. Next guy is gonna have what is he gonna have? He's gonna have 51%, actually 61% win rate, so this guy is better, averaging 1010 base experience, whereas the first one did average 850. This guy did 2100 damage on average with an assistance of 496, pretty much 500 assistance, which basically means the average performance for those guys are gonna hang around the 2200 2500 mark. But if you look at the third guy, he is gonna have 30 games into it with an average of 800 base experience, and average games winning are 54, so an average player. Whereas this one did only 1.5k damage on average and 600 spotting, which once again around 2.1k assistance, actually 2.1k in total. As you can see, for 3 marking this vehicle it's only 3.4k, which I think it's fairly average. But whenever this vehicle is gonna hit the live server, usually the super testers are above average players. There's like a minimum of 54% win rate as far as I saw, and most of them being like unicoms. So those guys are playing fairly good with the super test vehicles, which basically means whenever this thing is gonna hit the live server, it's gonna have weaker statistics, like 3 marking can go probably for 3100 ish. So yeah, it's still a solid vehicle, but as you can see from the performance, you can let me know about what you think about how this good of a vehicle is. And now, if you want to take a look at deeper statistics, we can see on the awesome tomato, the GG, the performance. So in the recent 60 days, there were only 64 battles played, by the looks of it, with an average double unit of 1500 and 53% win rate, average damage of 1300, and assistance around 669, a really nice number over there. Average revenue for this, so roughly on 2000 damage, average revenue was 53k, which how much is that? Wait, profit per minute, you can actually calculate this. What? So average profit was 11,000, which basically means people were spamming full gold to get this kind of an achievement. But now let's take a look at the loadout, and I can see 83% of the players were playing vertical stabilizer. Some of them were playing, actually more than half of them were playing with ventilation, and exactly 50% aiming class 1. Oh, I forgot about aiming class. I didn't mention this one when I reviewed the video. Some of them were coated optics, and one innate, either an enhanced gun lane drive, a turbocharger, IRM, and roughly 1 in 11 were using bounty equipment. And what about the players with good double innate, where they're using vents, enhanced lane drive, and aiming device, I guess, with vertical stabilizer as well. Okay, it's really messed up of an what is this, primary, secondary. Okay, okay. Maps. Let's take a look at the maps. Oh, this tank doesn't really like Westfield, doesn't like Mannerheim Lane, Save Heavens, Outpost, Erlenberg, Ghost Town, Ruinberg. I mean, how can you play 10 battles on a Ruinberg and still win 0? I mean, it doesn't make much sense, does it? But this vehicle likes Karelia, Live Oak. I mean, actually, this is only so small of data to actually make review on it. But by the looks of it, the most damage were on Ruinberg, Westfield. I mean, how people were like, probably they were like sniping or something like that. On Karelia, I can understand by playing to snipe, but once again, sniping with such low penetration, it's gonna be kind of a problem. I suppose I'm not supposed to show this, but it is what it is. What about damage per game? Okay. Top damage per game, 2800 in average of 30 games. Okay, this guy really know how to make this thing work, but only 3000 DPG for a Unicum, I don't think is the most, but considering you only have 17 people that are averaging over 2000 damage per game, I guess this vehicle is not really a damage dealer. And I think that's about all of this nonsense. Guys, let me know what you think about this vehicle, and I'll see you legends around. Bye bye.